One of NBA YoungBoy's closest affiliates was shot multiple times inside a Houston restaurant, and within minutes the internet went into full chaos mode. Rumors of death started flying everywhere. Then out of nowhere, a clip surfaced claiming YoungBoy didn't just hear about it, he allegedly jumped on Instagram Live and handled the situation himself. The night everything spiraled. Confessions. Wednesday night, April 8th, 2026. The Spana restaurant and nightlife hub in Houston's Upper Kirby had around 30 people inside when things suddenly flipped in a way nobody expected. That's when reports started circulating fast, with people online claiming one of the victims was NBA Ben10, a known affiliate of YoungBoy, turning what should have been a local incident into a national headline before most people even made it to bed. Houston police later revealed that the suspected gunman may have actually been getting robbed for his chains before everything erupted into gunfire. According to the Houston Police Department, units were dispatched to confessions around 11:30 p.m. after reports of shots fired, with Lieutenant R. Wilkins leading the response. When officers arrived, they found two men in their 20s, both hit multiple times, both in critical condition, and both rushed out for emergency treatment. Staff and owners cooperated fully, and surveillance cameras had been running the entire time, capturing everything as it unfolded. This wasn't some random, low-key spot either. Upper Kirby blends upscale dining with nightlife energy, and Confessions had already built a name for itself. Big names like 50 Cent and Glorilla had pulled up there before, giving it that it plays status in Houston's rap-adjacent scene. It's the kind of venue where showing up matters more than the menu or being seen is the whole point. But that same visibility cuts both ways. The energy that attracts people with money and status also attracts those watching for exactly that, and on April 8th, both types ended up under the same roof. Investigators hinted this might not have been random at all. Early details suggested the people involved could have known each other, or at least knew exactly who they were approaching. Nothing was confirmed at that stage. But the idea that this wasn't just a crime of opportunity, that there may have been some level of targeting, only fueled speculation online for days. According to police, it all started over jewelry. A group inside the restaurant allegedly spotted a man wearing chains and made a move. What started as a verbal exchange escalated almost instantly, the way it always does in tight spaces with no real exits and nowhere to escalate. One victim was hit multiple times in the torso, the other in the arms and legs. This wasn't a one-on-one situation either. Multiple individuals reportedly surrounded the target, dragging him down and striking him, and that's when everything reached the point of no return, repeatedly yanking the chains straight off his neck. Around them, people reacted exactly how you'd expect in a packed room once things turn real, dropping to the floor, sliding behind tables, rushing for whatever exit they could find. The footage caught it all. Nearly 30 people trying to move through a space that flipped from nightlife energy to full-blown chaos in seconds. Then, in the middle of it, the man on the ground reached toward his waistband, something the group crowding him clearly didn't see coming. Police say that's when everything escalated past the point of control. He pulled out a gun and started firing randomly. That's the exact word investigators used. No clear target, no calculated shots, just bullets going off in a room still packed with people. 2 individuals were hit, and even then, authorities made it clear they couldn't confirm whether those 2 were involved in the attempted robbery or just caught in the crossfire. That detail never got clarified in the early stages, and it only added more confusion to an already messy situation. Meanwhile, the shooter managed to escape the scene. At the time, there were still around 20 to 30 people inside the restaurant, and days later, that detail would stand out even more. Because as of April 14th, 2026, nearly a week after the shooting, no arrests had been publicly announced. The Houston Police Department had surveillance footage, witness accounts, and full cooperation from the venue. But the man who pulled the trigger and disappeared into the Houston night was still out there. The first victim, hit multiple times in the torso, was identified by family and hip-hop pages as Ben Fields, better known as NBA Ben10. The second victim, who took bullets to the arms and lower body, wasn't publicly identified in official reports. Both were rushed out in critical condition, but by the next morning, the internet had already made up its mind. Death rumors spread so fast they started getting reposted as facts by major pages, pulling NBA YoungBoy's name into every version of the story, even though nothing had been confirmed linking him directly to what happened inside that restaurant. To really understand why the name NBA Ben10 alone was enough to send the internet into overdrive, you have to go back to Baton Rouge, the same environment, the same streets, and the same world that shaped NBA YoungBoy. Ben Anthony Fields was born December 13, 1999, making him 26 at the time of the Houston shooting. He came up in Baton Rouge, surrounded by the same pressures, the same realities, and the same street dynamics that define the city's influence on rap culture. Baton Rouge isn't just a backdrop, it's a place with its own sound, its own rules, where the music doesn't just imitate struggle, it documents it in real time. Early on, his presence online under names like MG Gang 10X and MG, tied to what people say stood for Mud Gang, didn't look like typical influencer content. One of his first notable posts was a Bible verse, John 3:16. That alone said a lot. A young man coming out of that environment, leading with a message about sacrifice and loyalty. It wasn't contradiction, it was reality. In places like Baton Rouge, faith and street loyalty don't cancel each other out. They exist side by side. Inside the 4KT circle, loyalty isn't just talk, it's currency. It carries real weight, and it only means something if it's been tested. And according to people close to that world, Fields wasn't just around, he was someone whose loyalty had already been proven. Documentarians, and people close to that circle describe him as a cousin, or at the very least a mud brother to NBA YoungBoy. And that term carries real weight in Baton Rouge, more than most outsiders realize. A mud brother isn't just someone you hang around. It's someone who was in the mud with you before anything existed. Before money, before fame, before cameras turned the lifestyle into content. It's loyalty proven under pressure, not something you just say in interviews. In a rap industry where being seen next to a star gets mistaken for real connection all the time, that label is guarded. Heavy, you don't claim it, you earn it. And by all accounts, Fields earned it. He was there through the early grind. The mixtape era, the privation years, and the legal pressure that kept closing in on YoungBoy even while his music output kept accelerating, at a pace the industry couldn't match. One of the most talked about moments came during that Jamaica reunion around 2019 to 2020 footage that core fans treated like more than just a link. At one point, legal restrictions had actually prevented YoungBoy and Fields from even being in the same space. So when that barrier finally lifted and they appeared together again, it meant something. For people following closely, it was proof that some ties don't break, even when the system tries to force distance. That reunion lined up with one of YoungBoy's most intense creative runs, a stretch defined by house arrest, constant scrutiny, and still non-stop releases. While most artists would have slowed down under that kind of pressure, he did the opposite, and Ben10 was right there for it. Not on the outside looking in, but fully embedded in the day-to-day. Same rooms, same footage, same environment, part of the core, not just orbiting it. He lived inside that raw, unfiltered world that YoungBoy built his entire identity around. His own music reflects that same energy. Tracks like How I'm Coming, Walking Dead, and Play With Me on Apple Music, along with records like Chopstick, Pain, and Bust A Right listed on Genius, aren't made for mainstream crossover. They're built for a specific audience, people who recognize the references because they've seen similar realities up close. That rawness is exactly what keeps his listeners locked in. This isn't casual listening, it's connection. Leading up to the shooting, he wasn't laying low either. He had been active in Houston during spring break, reportedly doing paid meet and greets, going for around $5,000. He was outside, visible, moving. April 8th didn't catch someone hiding, it caught someone fully in motion, right in the middle of everything. And whatever went down that night, it didn't come with a warning. Then there's All-Star Jr., the name that quietly sat in the background while everything else blew up. If Ben10 was the headline, All-Star Jr. was buried in the fine print. A Detroit rapper, and based on what's been pieced together from social media and early reports, the one allegedly targeted for his chains inside confessions that night. The same person who got rushed, dragged to the floor, jewelry snatched, and then reached for a concealed weapon and started firing into the crowd. And here's where the story takes another turn. After all of that, with Ben10 in critical condition, All-Star Jr. reportedly went on Instagram and posted new jewelry. That detail didn't dominate headlines, but for the people paying attention, it stood out. He's not a mainstream name, even within rap circles. But in this situation, his role turned him into a key piece of a story that the internet was already trying to rewrite in real-time culture. But his background tells you something important about the kind of person who doesn't just fold when someone tries to take what's his. Before April 8th, All-Star Jr. had already survived being shot in the face, a gunshot to the head that didn't end him. That's not just a random detail. That's the environment he operates in. A world where violence isn't some rare break-in. Point at something certain individuals endure, adapt to, and keep moving through like it's part of the cycle. By the time the Houston shooting happened, YoungBoy wasn't just another rapper reacting to headlines. He was someone whose every move carried legal weight, where even a response could come with consequences. By December 2024, a global plea deal brought all those cases together. The outcome, 23 months in federal prison, credit for time already served, 5 years of supervised release, and around $200,000 in fines. NBA YoungBoy served that time at FCI Talladega and was released in 2025. Then, reports started circulating that Donald Trump issued a presidential pardon around May 2025, potentially easing or removing some of the restrictions that would have otherwise followed him under supervised release, even into 2026. the legal spotlight didn't completely disappear. A January traffic stop in Utah reportedly involved drugs found in a vehicle he was riding in, but no charges were filed against him after others took responsibility. That's the reality he was operating under when the Houston shooting happened, a situation where one wrong move publicly could carry serious legal consequences. And yet, the internet still expected an immediate, visible reaction. That expectation misses the bigger picture. Asking someone in his position to jump online or make a direct, aggressive move after an incident like that, knowing every action is watched, ignores who actually faces the consequences. The person reposting a clip doesn't deal with federal violations. He doesn't. For someone with that kind of history, that calculation isn't hypothetical, it's real. What came from inside the camp instead was controlled and intentional. OG Moni, connected to OG33, posted early on April 9th saying Ben10 was alive and to stop the false rumors. That message spread fast, shutting down the death narrative before it could fully take hold. NBA Herm went live, echoing the same thing, confirming Ben Fields was going to pull through and that the circle was still solid. Other affiliates posted prayers, support, and updates where they could. Even YoungBoy's mother reportedly engaged with fans trying to clear up misinformation about his condition. Everyone who had the ability to speak without creating legal risk did exactly that, and everyone who didn't stayed quiet. By April 12th through the 14th, multiple sources close to the situation confirmed Ben10 was walking, talking, and recovering. The more extreme rumors, paralysis, being permanently immobilized, started, collapsing just as fast as they had spread. The claims that gained the most traction early on turned out to be the least accurate, and through all of it, NBA YoungBoy himself stayed publicly silent. No confirmed statements, no visible reactions, nothing that could be directly tied back to him. What this whole situation showed wasn't chaos from the 4KT camp. It showed structure. When the pressure hit, the response wasn't loud, it was calculated. The people who could speak handled communication, the ones who couldn't didn't. Force it. And the person at the center of it all moved carefully, staying within whatever space he had to operate.